number of emergency admissions for kidney stones in England has more than doubled over the last 10 years. Figures gathered by the Health and Social Care Information Centre found the number of people admitted to hospital after visiting A&E for this rose from almost 6,000 in 2004-2005 to 12,500 cases in 2014-15. The figures also show that men are more prone to this. They're most at risk between the ages of 40 and 70. Well, I spoke a little earlier to Richard Coward, who's a professor of renal medicine and consultant paediatric nephrologist at Bristol Royal Hospital for Children. And he explained that people with kidney stones often don't realise they've got them until they're in an awful lot of pain.
Quite commonly, patients can present for the first time with an incredible amount of pain, which often goes from the back going into their groin, and they then come into hospital at that particular time.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those things that when you get that pain, because of where it is, you don't necessarily link it to anything obvious.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because it's in your back, so you don't necessarily think it's going to be related to your kidney.
How do they start in the first place?
So they can start in a number of different ways, but basically what happens is you get substances within the urine which form into little crystals. When they've been around for a prolonged period of time, the crystals then stick together effectively and form kidney stones. And when the kidney stones are formed, when they get big enough, what they can effectively do in the worst case scenario is block the kidney.
So how do you, is it all about what you eat or what you drink, or are some people just predisposed to it no matter what they do?
So it's different for different people. Absolutely, what you eat and what you drink is incredibly important in the prevention of kidney stones. So obviously, if you've got these little crystals in your urine, if you've got stagnant urine, so it's not moving very quickly, the crystals are much more likely to form into stones. So a really key important thing is to make sure you're drinking plenty. And make sure you're drinking the right thing. So water's a great thing to be drinking, and making sure you're hydrated during the day. Especially important if you go on holiday to a hot place, because obviously you're more likely to get dehydrated and sweat, so you've got to drink more at that particular time as well.
Yeah, why is it men that, women do get them as well, but men seem to get them more, and at certain ages as well in later life?
Yeah, that's a bit of a mystery to me. I don't really understand why it's more in men than women. Maybe it's their lifestyle, maybe they're not as good at being as hydrated. Interesting, I think there is data that men's salt intake is greater than women, and we know that you've got a high salt level. That's not good for kidney stones, in addition to other things such as blood pressure. So maybe it's the lifestyle, but this is an area which I think is really interesting, and we definitely need to kind of research into this in more detail.
Yeah, we talk about stones. I'm thinking of something that you might find on the beach, which is presumably far larger. What kind of size are we talking about?
So they can vary. You can have stones which are called staghorn stones, which fill up the whole of the top end of the kidney, and they can be 5 centimetres to 10 centimetres in size, so those are very big.
Even that name sounds painful.
Yeah, it does. And then you can have very small stones which are a few millimetres big, but actually they can be more painful than the big stones, because what they do is they travel down the tube that leads from the kidney to the bladder, and they basically squeeze on it and cause pain to be radiated. So stones can be lots of different sizes.
Yeah, and just finally, when somebody turns up at A&E or wherever in this incredible pain, how do you actually treat it? Do you have to operate always?
Different things, basically. When they come into casualty, it can be really, really difficult for the person, because often the doctors may not recognise that they're in such intense pain. So the most important thing is to give them painkillers. And then sometimes they pass the stone, and sometimes what happens is they do need to go to an operation. And I suspect that these 12,000 cases will need to have been operated on.
That's Professor Richard Coward speaking to me a little earlier. Final word on GoTo.
Please.
Ian says GoTo